Former Buckeyes are all in on Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin, but they aren't necessarily counting out Lincoln Kienholz. Let's talk about what one of those had to say in particular at the NFL Combine. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. We talk college football year-round here, even in the month of March, as we're getting started with what traditionally is the spring football calendar in college football, but even that is being changed under what is an evolving sport, man. We've got programs, Nebraska, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, all saying we're not going to play a spring game this year for a number of different reasons, right? But I think one of the things we wanted to see was some of the new quarterbacks and how they looked, at least to us, as opposed to just what we expect based on them being a year within the system or transferring in, or what other players have had to say. That said, we're not going to turn down nothing but our collar when it comes to former players giving an honest and unvarnished truth about what they think the future of the program will be. Now, caveat here, I have rarely heard a former player of a championship program speak ill of the class that is coming behind them. However, they're not necessarily that enthusiastic about telling you how much better the next crop of players is going to be. People, for the most part, they got pride about themselves. They like to think that they are the best to do it and that somebody else might not get close. I'm thinking about, say, Eric Dickerson at the NFL level, who got to keep his, career single-season rushing record title because the Philadelphia Eagles allowed it by not letting Saquon Barkley go ahead and break that thing, given he had the extra games to play with as well. I'm looking at Baker Mayfield, who once said, after winning the Heisman Trophy, Kyler's going to break all my records at Oklahoma. And many people thought, yo, dog, that's a lot of records. You were pretty damn good. Walk on to Heisman Trophy winner, to leading a team to the college football playoff, Big 12 championships. And what did Kyler Murray did? He broke all of his records. Like, it was pretty phenomenal to watch how predictable and right Baker was. So I always try to put that into these sorts of conversations when I reference players that have just been removed from a championship program and who are heading into the NFL and still very much got that glow about them. And one of those players is Denzel Burke. He still got that glow about him, having won the national championship last year and really having to do it or bust. Like I said, all of last year, no program across any sport had more pressure on it to win the whole damn thing than the Ohio State Buckeyes. Not the Kansas City Chiefs, who were trying to go for a three-peat. Certainly not Georgia, who was trying to go for a three-peat a couple of years ago. Nobody in Major League Baseball, as we expect the Dodgers and the Yankees to run over most everybody once again. The Dodgers are so loaded, man. And in the NBA, it's been an open fight. You could see the Boston Celtics do it again. You could just as likely perhaps see the Cleveland Cavaliers come out of nowhere to make this thing happen. We're all intrigued about what the Lakers might be. They might be a dangerous team. They make the playoffs with Luka and LeBron. But nobody over there had the pressure that the Buckeyes did, including Ryan Day and the senior class led by guys like Denzel Burke. So knowing that that group of players, 15 in fact, were invited to the NFL Scouting Combine, including the quarterback in Will Howard, they're going to go into a fourth consecutive year with a new starter at quarterback, dating back to C.J. Stroud, right? C.J. Stroud, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, and now we expect Julian Sayin or Lincoln Kienholz. What I thought was interesting about what Denzel Burke had to say was that he didn't necessarily count out Lincoln Kienholz. He seems to think he's gotten much better than the last time that we got to see him out in public against people that matter, which would be the 2024 Cotton Bowl against Missouri. But Julian Sayin didn't transfer in from Alabama and wasn't one of the top players at his position out of Carlsbad, California, to sit behind Lincoln Kienholz. Now, if Kienholz can push him, everybody gets sharper, everybody gets better, and that's what the program wants. That's what fans want. We want to see the best player, and we would like to see him push, but perhaps not too much, because if Lincoln Kienholz can prove to be that much better than Julian Sayin, what does that say about Julian Sayin? What does it say about the quarterback group? What did Aaron Nolan know or not know when he went into the transfer portal? What did Devin Brown know or not know when he went into the transfer portal? So you really need one of those guys to pan out, or Tavian St. Clair. Now, I think that was the other part that I kind of clocked here, was what was not being said. As Denzel Burke was answering questions about, Julian Sayin, nobody mentioned Tavian St. Clair. And only Buckeye fans seem to believe that he has a real opportunity to unseat Julian Sayin as the presumptive starter and go into this season as your 2025 starting quarterback. That said, Brian Hartline is going into a new year as the offensive coordinator. You've got a new quarterbacks coach in Billy Fessler. You've got a promotion for the tight ends coach, the co-offensive coordinator in Keenan Bailey. You've got a new offensive line coach in Tyler Bowen. I think they're not going to want to put all of that on a true freshman to open this thing up. But I am going to mention it because I'm sure that someone in the comments of this channel are going to let us know that Tavian St. Clair is, in fact, competing for the job. If you think that he's got a shot, please tell me in the comments below why you think that is. But Julian Sayin also showed Denzel Burke exactly what he needed to see a few practices in, according to him. He said, look, the way that he carries himself, the way that he's all about ball, and frankly, how the ball comes out of his hand just leads you to believe he's going to have a really great career at Ohio State. He stopped short of making a comparison to a player that he thought in his head was perhaps just as good or an apt comparison, because he said, I don't want to put all that on him. So we can joke about whoever we think that might be. Many people think it might be CJ Stroud, given his accuracy and his ability to get the ball down the field, but also to complete those intermediate routes and to read coverage at a very high level, not necessarily need to lean on his ability to run away from people the way that Justin Fields could, the way that Will Howard could. I would even say Kyle McCord would be a pretty fair comparison for Julian Sayin. Kyle McCord, who led the entire country in passing yards last year at Syracuse, and I think could be a pretty damn good quarterback in the NFL. As a matter of fact, he ain't the athlete that Matthew Stafford is, but that's what I think the comp would be. I'm not at all going to dismiss that, and I think there's a number of players that would love to have Kyle McCord's skill set. So for those of y'all that already want to dunk on that one because the dude lost to Michigan and bolted to Syracuse, fair, but hey, he also was better than Devin Brown, and y'all got to see what y'all liked out of Devin Brown. The thing is, Devin Brown stuck it out through 2024, right? That's why he gets the edge. It's the same reason Travion Henderson gets the edge from many on Quinshon Judkins. They're just loyal, right? The longer you've been in the program, the more they want to see you succeed, the more likely they are to vote for you as their guy. That's it. I think that there's a lot on this. I think Billy Fessler is going to show us a lot about how he coaches, about how he chooses. And given that the spring football calendar is going to start later for everybody and the spring games are going to go, you're not necessarily having to do this in front of people, which I think is going to be helpful to a new starter going into this year all across the board. We don't get to see you. The coaches get to give their evaluations if they're willing to do that. I don't always trust what they have to say. It's more what they're not talking about that I'm really interested in. And we're really not going to know much about Ohio State starting quarterback until we get to the week before college football begins. And they got a ways. And they got to get it figured out today because they got Texas on August 31st. And they already know who their guy is, Arch Manning. And we all already know he can play. And we know that Texas offense is going to be good. Once again, Ryan Wingo out at flanker. They get C.J. Baxter to add to Quintravion Wiesner in the backfield, along with Jared Gibson, along with Christian Clark. That's going to be fun, right? If anything, Tashard Choice had to be thinking, damn, do I really want to leave this go to Detroit Lions? Yeah, you do, right? But back-to-back college football playoff appearances is nothing too shabby, right? I think Julian Sayin's going to have it. But once again, I just like to see it. I want to see him spin it. I want to see him spin it well. I want to see him have a good, long, successful career, next 2 years, at Ohio State. That said, I think the gap is going to close once again because the edge for Ohio State is going to remain the one that they had from last year. It's going to be a wide receiver. Jeremiah Smith needs to get fed the ball. Emeka Ibuka's gone, but Carnell Tate needs to get fed the ball, right? Same thing with Brandon Ennis and Mylan Graham, right? Bryson Rogers. We can keep going down the line on this. In the Big Ten, Oregon is once again going to be pretty good, but they got a new starter, we think, in Dante Moore, right? We expect Penn State to be able to run the football, but are they going to have any receivers to throw it to? And even if they did, could Drew Aller be the guy to go win you the football game on his arm? I've yet to see it, and I don't know that he's the guy to do it. We'll find out what it is that Lincoln Riley's got cooking at USC because they seem to like what they have, even losing guys like Zachariah Branch into the transfer portal, say nothing of Zion Branch. I think the Big Ten's going to get compacted. Indiana is going to go into the year with a new start. As a matter of fact, you go down the line on this, right? You can count on one hand how many returning starters there are in the Big Ten at quarterback. And I think that that is fascinating because of the programs that are changing, think about this. Wisconsin's going to be new, right? Penn State is going to have its, so that's one. Ohio State's going to be new. Michigan is going to be new. Oregon is going to be new. I keep going here, right, before we get to all 18 of these programs, but I think that's important to note. Luke Altmaier and Illinois got to be feeling good about where they are given how they finished. They beat Michigan last year. What if they can beat the rest of the upper echelon of the Big Ten? So you have to nail your quarterback situation at Ohio State, and you have to do it right now and hope Julian Sayin vaults to the front of the line when it comes to talking about the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten.